Hello, everybody. It's finally here after the long-awaited Easter night raffle. Of course, who could forget that Easter night raffle to celebrate Easter just a week ago? One of the prizes was this History of KC video. It's finally here. Admittedly, probably a little longer than anticipated, but it's very important to me that we actually get this out, and I actually had a pretty good time making this. It was a nice time reminiscing as someone who's been along for the whole ride. It was a good time to go back and think about, admittedly, a bit of our humble origins, and to reflect on where we are now. So, without further ado, I won't drag this on for too long because there are quite a few number of slides in this presentation, so don't want to make this the longest video of all time. I'm hoping for like 30 to 40 minutes on this one, and I think I can do it, but there's only one way to find out, and it's not going to be from yapping this whole time. So without ado, let's start with Season 1, our humble beginnings as a league. So, one of the greatest minds in human history, Rexalis, brought together an assembly of the 6 greatest minds in human history, of course. Obviously, that includes me. Of course. Who else would it include? But also notable members of the league, Jamark, Kairogenes, and Loker, along with myself and Rexalis, came together in September of 2023 and just started a draft league. Now, what did that really look like in the beginning? Well, it was pretty much just 6 people in a Discord DM chat, just dropping whatever mons they wanted. Kind of. There was a bit of a format. Let's talk about that real quick. So, 6 teams, so just 6 people, and there were 11 total mods. So, what did that look like? You could have 4 OU mons. You could have 4 UU mons. Then you could have 3 RU or lower mons. Real quickly, let's just skip forward a couple slides to see what that looked like. It would be something like this. Oh, sorry. You would have 3 UU mons. So, you would pick based on what was currently tiered at the time via Smogon, and you could only bring 2 of each mon to a match. Interestingly enough, as far as Terra goes, you could only Terra mons that were ranked UU or lower, but it worked a bit differently than how you might traditionally think of a Terra system. While you could Terra every mon that was ranked UU or lower, you had to lock in those Terra types at the beginning of the week. So you would just go into the main spreadsheet that was shared between all of us and then type in whatever Terra types you wanted to. That was the only type you could fill out for that mon. That was the only type they could Terra for the entire week. Real quickly, I should have had a better example before the winner slide, but like let's just look at this for a second. Like Rillaboom, you would put in water, for example, as I did here, and that was the only type Rillaboom could go into for the entire week. You could only turn him into a water type. I could only turn Rillaboom Rotom Heat into a steel type. If I wanted to change it for the next week, I would have to lock that in the first few days of the next week, and then go into the matchup with whatever type I put into the stock. So it's a little scuffed, and especially when playoffs come around, we eventually, as you can imagine, encountered some problems with the setup. For example, it's like there was some weird like counter teaming things with the Terra types. So like sometimes when specific matchups came up, you would try to like get the one up on the guy you were playing against by like trying to sneak a Terra type in without him noticing. And eventually, come playoffs, we just handshook that whoever like the lower seed or the lower like whoever was in losers bracket would lock theirs in first, and then the other guy who's playing against him would like counter pick those Terra types. So, for example, as you can see with the mons we have here, I had Rillaboom. And I was playing against Jeremy Kyrogenes, who had Tinkaton. So one of the things I did for our playoff match was, hey, I want to be Terra Electric on Rillaboom. So I put that in the sheet, and then we hand shook. Since he was in the upper bracket, I was in the lower bracket. I put that in first, and then afterwards, he saw that. He said, "Hey, I need to have some other kind of measure for for Tinkaton to be able to hit this Rillaboom if it's Terra Electric." And then he put in like Terra Ground Tinkaton or some shit, so I wouldn't be able to like. So if I Terra Electric, I wouldn't be able to dodge the Thunder Wave. By the way, this is before the first DLC, so this is Rillaboom without Grassy Glide. I know that sounds like a stupid example, because like, you know, you would just get killed by Grassy Glide. No, this was before Grassy Glide was added back into the game. So he would be Terra Ground to, like, Stomping Tantrum my stupid ass Terra Electric Rillaboom if he couldn't T-Wave it. So, I mean, not the most elegant of Terra systems, I'll be honest. Especially, I mean, the whole system was not very elegant. It was based off of Smogon tiering, which, as you can imagine, has some other problems, especially when we consider that Smogon tiering could change. So here's a bit of a recurring topic here. Here's the main fucked up part of free agency during this season. So, since tiering was based around whatever a Pokemon was Smogon ranked at the time, obviously that changes throughout the season. So, like, things can go up or down. And traditionally, as we had it, Ubermons were banned. So you could not pick them up. They had to be OU or lower. That was the highest rank they could be at. But when the first DLC dropped, which happened in the middle of this season, if you recall anything about Smogon tiering, they usually like to retest things that were previously banned when new DLC drops. So, what happened a lot during this season, especially when that first DLC dropped, was a bunch of broken ass mons would drop back into UU, and then they would be picked up since they were OU and they were technically legal to be picked up per our league rules, and then like a few days later they would be banned. But there was no rule for like going back in reverse if a Pokemon got banned to OU, to Ubers. So that means if you had it in like the 1 or 2 weeks where it was OU legal, you just had it on your roster for the rest of the season. The two funniest examples of this, actually I'll go over the second funniest example of this, which was Jeremy picking up Blood Moon in the 1 week it was OU. That was funny enough. The funniest example was Baxcalibur, which already existed and was already Ubers when we started our league. So it was already banned, you could not pick it up, and then when the DLC dropped, Smogon retested it, they dropped it back in OU. Like 1 week later, they said, nah, this is way too broken, we gotta ban this. They dropped it back into OU, into Ubers, I mean. But it was still picked up on a roster, so it was just on. This happened right before playoffs, by the way. The retesting and everything dropping back. So it was like the last fucking train out of the last chopper out of Vietnam, bro. You could just pick up these random ass brand new guys that were broken as fuck. Especially since we all sucked ass at the time. I cannot stress this enough. Everyone in Season 1 and Season 2 and all the early seasons were so bad and did not understand the game at all. Me included in that, just to be very clear. So, yeah. That was a pretty fucked up part of free agency. But also, halfway through the season, 2 of our 6 players didn't even really show up to their matches. So it was supposed to be double round robin, so 10 weeks regular season. Don't ask me why we thought that. We did. Instead, after 5 weeks, since 2 of our players didn't want to play anymore, we said, fuck it, let's just start the playoffs now. We do a double Elim BO3. The first top 2 Cs are me and Jamark. Jamark is undefeated. He's 5-0. I am 4-1. I've only lost to Jamark. The first round, I lose to, I think it's Jeremy. Yeah, I lose to Jeremy. Jamark loses to Davin Rexalis. And we immediately get sent to the loser's bracket and have to knock each other out. By the way, both this Jeremy guy and this Davin guy picked up these fucking DLC mons, or these like broken ass Ubers mods. But then we knock each other out. Eventually, I fight through loser's bracket. The finals matchup is me versus Jonathan Rexalis, and eventually I've shown it a couple times just to try to explain this confusing ass format, but I do eventually win with this roster here, the first champion in KC history, Hungry Apollons. So I mean, it was scuffed, I'll be honest. I mean, no better way to put it than that. It was not the most elegant of formats, but you know what? They don't call it humble beginnings for no reason, alright? And never forget that this is the realest championship of all time. This matters more than any of them, of course, because it was the most competitive. But with that, we can finally get into Season 2, where we finally start to look like, hey, maybe it's an actual draft league now, alright? So what actually changed? We have actual draft boards, and Mons are worth actual points now. Each team has a budget, so it actually kind of looks like what you would imagine a draft league to be, instead of just being based around this scuffed ass Smogon tiering. You could draft broken ass Mons like 19-point Manaphy, of course, and there's also way more teams. We went from 6 to 14 new teams. Some notable KC members that joined this season include Avon, Temple, Alexis Kindo, Holmesy, and Mystic. If you're newer to KC, you're saying, hey, who the hell is Kindo? Why is he a notable to KC members? Don't worry, we'll get to that in a second. And then this was the start of actual Terra captains, so instead of just every guy UU or under being able to Terra, you had to declare actual Terra captains, similar to what you would imagine with an actual draft board. And here's our recurring segment, of course, what was fucked up with free agency this season. Let's just start with week 0. Now, traditionally during a draft league, there are going to be a set number of changes during week 0, so you would have like 4 or 5 free changes during week 0. This was not the case in Season 2. You could make unlimited changes during week 0. So as many times as the voices were speaking to you, you could go into that chat, you could make some changes to your team. Which was also slightly exaggerated because there was only one draft night back then. All 14 of us were in like the Western American time zones, which meant that we could just do draft in one single night. So after like Monday night, draft is over. There's 6 full days for you to just sit there and look at your roster and just schizo post in free agency all week. So as you can imagine, there were I just want you to think about all the changes. There's week 0 is so much more limited today than it is back then, and we already see a million fucking changes in week 0. Back then, there were 28 individual changes submitted, which was even higher than 28 Mons changed for reasons we'll get into for later season. But 28, I just want you to look at that number. 28 is one of the most ridiculous numbers I've ever seen, but it's fine. Alright. Some changes to the format. We were BO3 just like last season. All the matches were BO3, 8-week season. But interestingly enough, there's a weird quirk that was in the format for a couple more seasons. If you won, only the losing team could make changes. So if you won game 1, you just had to roll back the same exact team, couldn't make any moves, any EV changes, but your opponent could like just sit there and counter team. And then if you lost that match, you could like counter team your opponent. It was not great. But I mean, I don't know why we did that, but we did. Like I said earlier, there were Terra Captains, but they were limited to low tier Mons, so only Mons pointed 9 points or below. Limited to 3 specific types. You had to change those. You just usually set those to 3 specific types for the entire season. They cost a transaction point to change. And then playoffs were a very unique format this season. There were 8 different playoff teams. Those teams got split into 2 different groups. So 4 teams in each group. Those groups would play a round robin against each other. The top 2 from those groups would advance to the final bracket. Eventually that takes us to our finals matchup for this season, which is Palatown Mafia, piloted by Jamark, versus Psyduck Psycon, piloted by me. At which point, Jamark comes out on top. Look at this bulky ass roster, bro. Is this not the most Jamark team you've ever seen? This is where they shit started, by the way. I just want you to understand. You're gonna see this Palatown Mafia team pop up a couple more times in this slideshow. This Jamark guy was rolling the league crazy style in the first like 3 or 4 seasons. It was actually unreal. I won't even lie to you. Look at this fat fucking bastard roster. Anyway, yeah, shout out Jamark. He was the winner of season 2. Which brings us to season 3. Honestly, I thought there was more changes going from season 2 to season 3. There honestly wasn't really that many at all. There were some new Mons. So first of all, a new DLC dropped, the second DLC of Gen 9. So that meant that a lot of Mons like Gouging Fire, the Ogerpon forms, stuff like that all dropped. We also allowed new Mons that were banned before, stuff like Lando Eye, Zamazenta with no item, which would eventually be swiftly shot dead. Rest in peace. Mons like that were all allowed for the first time. Darkrai was allowed, even though it was banned before. But the format itself was very similar, especially when we're looking at the regular season. It was still BO3. You still had that same quirk with if you won, you couldn't change your team. Except for one distinct change, which was playoffs going from BO1 groups into a BO3 bracket. It was now a BO3 group into a BO5 bracket, which means, for example, Jamark's team played 17 total playoff games. Just to be clear, if you're thinking about an 18-week-long season, that's as many games as 2 whole seasons of draft in one playoff run. A couple notable newcomers include Josh and Megaverse. Also, this is the first time that the FNAF brand comes into existence. Obviously, Lexus was not his first season, but this is the first season he decides to run it down crazy style with Trick Room. So, I mean, that's just magical, man. Sometimes you just gotta appreciate the moments in life. All right, simple as. As to our favorite little reoccurring segment, this also happened last season, but the transactions that each team has does not mean, hey, you can switch out one Mon. It just means you can type one whole message into free agency chat, and you can put as many transactions as you want in that one message. For example, if we look down at this abomination of a message in the at the bottom, this transaction trades out 6 individual Pokemon. Do you think this traded out 6 transaction points? No, this cost 1 point. This whole transaction at the bottom, which includes fucking Dragapult, by the way, cost 1 transaction point. Which means that you can swap out your entire roster like 8 different times the entire season. The greatest part about this is we're not even at the peak of this, as we'll see soon enough. Week 0, believe you me, was still very alive and well. This is when we get the start of the Boss Marill Legacy of Champions, where there's like 15 individual Boss Marill. Okay, it's not like 15. It's pretty close to 10 transactions in week 0, though. I'm actually so sure of that. It's close to double digits for that guy in week 0 alone. God's strongest week 0 warrior. So that's very much still happening. Keep that in the back of your mind, I guess. But yeah, as you can see, it definitely wasn't a perfect free agency system yet. Further exemplarized by this issue, where at any point in the middle of the night you could just wake up to the greatest mons of all time being dropped. So, like, what we started to see this season that also continued into the next season was that when teams started to lose a lot, they would kind of just blow up their roster. Which meant dropping... Oh, fuck. Excusa. I'm not editing that out, by the way. I'm doing this raw dog one take. Fuck you. Which meant that they would drop, like, the most powerful mons on their roster. As you can see from the example we had last time, this includes mons like Dragapult being randomly dropped in the middle of the night at midnight. So in the span of like 40 minutes, Iron Valiant and Dragapult were randomly on the market at midnight. If you went to bed early for work that night, I don't know, get fucked, I guess. Sorry you didn't expect a Dragapult and Iron Valiant to hit the market, buddy. This is the future, alright? Don't get it twisted. So that was definitely, I would say, a bit of an issue with free agency. As far as playoffs go, again, the format was much longer. Somehow we decided to take that long-ass groups into bracket format, make it even longer. But I will say, BO5 games, as a player, seem terrible. As I can attest to in later seasons, they are terrible. But all 3 of the bracket matches, so both semifinals and grand finals from Season 3, are fucking heaters, dude. They're fucking bangers. If you ever have like 30 minutes, go back on the KC YouTube channel. It's like towards the beginning. It's called Offense on Offense or some shit. Watch Kindo versus Vaughn in the semifinals. It's one of the fucking greatest KC series of all time. But also the other series, Jamark v Davin in the other semifinals, that's a banger. The grand finals of Jamark versus Kindo is also pretty fucking good. All 3 of those series go to 5 fucking games, which I can't imagine. I've been there. It's fucking terrible as a player, but as a spectator, that shit was fucking awesome and hype as hell. That being said, our finals matchup was Powtown Mafia for the 2nd season in a row against Kindo, but Kindo does eventually come on top. Don't look at this fucking roster. I don't know how this was allowed. The Monarch system wasn't in existence yet, but he has like 80 million of them. Don't ask how this happened. Again, recurring theme for a lot of these seasons. All of us fucking sucked and did not know what the hell we were doing, though. I will say, look at this logo, though, bro. This logo is crazy. Say what you will about KC. Yeah, we all fucking sucked. Yeah, the rules were scuffed as hell for a million years. Our logos and our branding is infinitely better than most draft leagues. Come on now. Come on. I don't like. Actually, never mind. I'm gonna skip past that. Moving on to season 4. This is the beginning of the Monarch system that we've all come to know and love, maybe hate. But we have an example of it here on the right, the royal system, in which different mons were split into all of these different categories, like Monarch, Duke, and Count, based on how many points they were worth. So the highest tiered mons were put into the Monarch category. You could have 1 of those. And then mons after that were put in the Duke category. You could have 2 of those. You could have 2 of all the other categories, except for Lord. There was, we don't have to talk about it though. So, the idea was that, hey, we split these mons into different categories based on how much power level, what the power level is at, and that kind of balances out drafts naturally. It forces you to think and build around your specific monarch, and you can go from there, which actually did come to define KC for the next couple seasons. I'll be honest, I thought this system came into place in like season 3. I was surprised when I was going back, I was looking at all the docs to see that this was not in place until season 4. But yes, this is the start of the royal system. Another notable change is that there are 20 teams in this season of King's Court. I'm just gonna leave that statement as is. 20 fucking teams, all good. On top of that, we went from 8 weeks regular season to 10 weeks regular season. Do not ask me what was going on. I couldn't tell you. Since there were 20 teams, that meant that the top 12 teams made playoffs. The top 4 seeds skipped the first round with a bye. But the first 2 rounds of playoffs were all BO3, of course, because it's all BO3. You can't have BO3 regular season and BO1 playoffs. They were all BO3 for the first 2 rounds. But even then, past that, it went into best of 5 with a loser's bracket on top of that. So, for example, this poor victim here, Hungry Hippowdons, plays 21 total games. I repeat, 21 total games. That's like if you played 3 whole seasons worth of draft leagues. Almost. You're short 3. But I mean, 21 total games, guys. Let me just skip ahead to the bracket. Look at this thing, man. I skipped a whole round and I still played 21 total games. Hello? I won the first round of grand finals and then we bracket reset for another game. Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention that. Grand finals was a BO5 with bracket reset BO1. Don't ask me how he came up with that. I'll have to actually tell you how we came up with that. It's because it was hyped as hell. Also, real quick, you'll notice in grand finals was our 9 seed, Jeremy Chateau Noir. I just want you to know, he started this season off like 5-0. Alright? He started this season off 5-0. He donkey dicked everyone down, lost for the next 5 weeks, ended the season 5-5. Barely squeaked into playoffs this whole time for 5 weeks. This guy's spamming chat being, dude, I'm just loading the fucking slingshot. Dude, you don't get it, bro. I'm just loading the fucking slingshot. And then he enters playoffs as a 9 seed and wins it all, bro. He really was loading the fucking slingshot. All good. Importantly, some notable KC members. Yoshi, the GOAT. Hasn't played very many KC seasons himself, but if you've asked around about having your team logo done, I'm sure you heard his name thrown around. He's probably done like I don't know, like 70% of all the logos in this league are probably done by that guy. The GOAT. Seal joined the season, Knave joined the season, and Dean joined the season. Current #1 seed in our top division. Shout out Dean, who actually joined halfway through the season. He was a replacement team for someone who dropped down. And he actually did really well. So, you know, shout out him. Here's everyone's favorite segment. All the week 0 stuff was still the same. All the stuff with transaction points was still the same, except it was even worse this season because there was 10 total transaction points. So, in theory, if you had 10 Mons on your roster and you and you change all 10 of them all 10 times, you could change 100 total Mons. We'll get into something like that in a second. Oh, good. You could change out 100 total Mons. That's not even counting week 0. This was also when people decided that you could trade free agency points. This has been in the rules for a season or 2 before this, with the idea being, you know, like in traditional sports, where teams will like throw in future draft picks to incentivize the deal a little bit. That was kind of the idea behind that. If you wanted to sweeten the deal a little bit, you could throw in a free agency point or 2. But it eventually just turned into some teams that like wanted to be nice, just throwing free agency points at the bastards who had already ran out of free agency points somehow. Even though you could change out infinite Mons with any one transaction point, there were still people running out of all 10 of them. So it was already borderline impossible to run out of transaction points. People found a way to do it, but eventually it just turned into people gifting them points for fun, and also that problem of the losing teams dropping their best Mons for fun once they were out of playoffs happen again, most notably with Deoxys Speed being traded away for Mew onto the winning roster. But you know what, it is what it is. Real quickly, just as a bit of a side note, I'll be honest guys, I gotta come clean with something. As far as this trading free agency points thing goes, I was the first guy to do this. Alright, me and Cairo Jennings wanted to swap our whole roster for fun for a week. After 3 minutes and all the all the shit people were saying, we realized, oh fuck, we have to reverse this, or everyone is going to veto on the trade back, and we're going to be stuck with each other's roster for the rest of playoffs. We don't want that. We were like the top 2 rosters at the time. So we try to go back, we do, and eventually it just costs this Jeremy guy 1 transaction point. So I'm like, oh fuck it, I'll throw him a bone, I'll give him 1 transaction point. That eventually just turns into people giving free transaction points for fun. People don't really like that. That turns into some organized protests like this, where people would funnel their transaction points into one guy who would just trade their lowest tier Mon 10 times until eventually it comes in a full circle. They get into the same Mon they started with. So shout out to Vaughn and Yoshi. And then here's the ultimate culmination of all the problems in Season 4 with free agency. I beg you, I legit went out of my way to pin this message in Yap Yard. If you have like 40 minutes of free time, somehow after you're hearing me yap about all this, you have 40 minutes of more free time. Go back and just put this shit on the background and just fucking watch in shock and awe of all the shit that happened with this FNAF team this season. I cannot stress it enough. This is like the peak of everything that was fucked up with free agency this season. As far as important events go, one thing you have to know is that in our rule set, there is a tiebreaker called Jester Battles. You get a free little shitter 1-point one called a Jester. It's like the 4th tiebreaker. There's 3 other tiebreakers that come up before this, but somehow we had a Jester Battle this season where the 4th and 5th seed versus Rexalis and Kindo, our former champion. Kindo had Wooper, Rexalis had Pachirisu. On this Jester Battle, Kindo presses Protect, immediately gets encored into it, instantly loses the game, and afterwards crashes out of the league, drops out of playoffs completely, and has not been in the league ever since. So if you're wondering why he was in notable event joinees earlier, not only did he win the league in Season 3, He crashes out over a Jester battle the next season like a beast for the 5th seed. And then our finals is me, Ugly Ugly Paladins versus Chateau Noir, followed by Kyrogenes. And eventually, after a bracket reset, Kyrogenes comes out on top, marking his first KC victory with this here roster. Bringing us on to Season 5, the introduction of Gengar in Clefable League, which is notable because for the first time in KC history, there are now 2 divisions, with Clefable being the upper league that you could promote into, Gengar League being the bottom league that you could demote into from the top league. We messed around with some free agency changes. As you can imagine, there were a lot of issues. We just kind of tried to throw a lot of stuff at the wall. So stuff like free agency changes were hidden. Only mods could see the free agency changes channel, and at the end of the week they would announce all the changes that were made. That was kind of weird. Free agency was split into 4 changes for the first 4 weeks, 4 changes for the last 4 weeks. That actually did end up staying for a couple of seasons, but probably the most impactful change is that the league was now BO2 in the regular season, which meant you could tie now. This was pretty impactful. Not the greatest change of all time. Somehow did end up staying for another season after this, and led to some interesting final brackets. For example, if you notice me there, 2-0-6, 2 wins, 6 ties is 4th seed, but compared to our 9th seed who misses playoffs, 1 win, 1 loss, 6 ties. So yes, that means I won 1 more total game out of 24 games. I won a single more. That was the difference between 4th and 9th seed. So not the greatest system of all time, if I had to say. Playoffs, we got rid of groups. It was now top 8, a best of 3 bracket, but there's still losers bracket. That causes issues for a number of reasons. First of all, teams like FNAF, not piloted by Alexis, piloted by Vaughn this time. Don't ask. He just took over the name for fun like a beast. Play like 13 total games. Again, that's a lot. It also meant that if you brought like a very interesting off the wall set, like Vaughn tended to do a lot, if you met that opponent again, they would be ready for it the second time around, and you would just be shit out of luck. So, I mean, not the greatest system, but hey, it is what it is. Some more notable newcomers, especially in that Gengar division, are going to be I Fear Nobody, 8th Squonk, missing a Q there, all good, Sunscorched, and Kaz. And then the Terra power level was raised slightly this season. Our finals matchups were me versus Vaughn in our Clefable division, and then Greedy Gliscors by Loker and Rotom Washed, piloted by I Fear Nobody. Didn't write it down, my bad. It's piloted by I Fear Nobody. And, hold on, we'll get back to that in a second. Our Season 5 winners were me and I Fear Nobody for our 2 divisions. So, real quickly, I just wanted to mention this. I forgot I've added this slide, but this was our first known mention of the word Sunday Slammer, as far as I could find. I couldn't find anything else before this. So shout out Ian Z Yoshi the Goat for inventing the quintessential KC term. Also, this was like 2 years ago. This is crazy that this is sandwiched in between this screenshot. This guy just made his team branding this season, like 2 years later. So I thought that was a funny inclusion. But yeah, shout out Yoshi for inventing the term Sunday Slammer, because now fucking everyone and their mom uses Sunday Slammer. That's just what you do in KC, where I mean, there's just a million games on Sunday every week, and it's honestly probably like one of the most defining parts of this league. I've entered a lot of draft leagues. I've never seen like something like the Sunday Slammer before, so shout out to that. Moving on to Season 6 now. This was the debut of our Doubles League. So, the Lazy River and the Roaring Rapids divisions were introduced. Along with that came a couple of notable doubles players, but also a lot of notable singles players as well. The Crack God, Sahaya, Kaz the Toost, Mafi, Applethroat Freddy, and Subsilver all joined this season. We finally made the free agency change where one Mon change meant 1 transaction point, and then week 0 was knocked down to only 5 changes. We got rid of all the free agency hidden experimentation we did last season. We just figured this was good enough of a change. And then we finally get to Terra Tax, where if you want to Terra Amon, you want to make it your Terra captain, you have to pay more points. And then we got into Open Terra, finally. Whereas before, all the other seasons before this, you would just have to put specific Terra types in the sheet. Those are the only types you could turn your Mon into. Now, you could finally do it, turn your Mon into any type, which was a very nice change in my opinion. So, WKC for that. But this is certainly not the perfect season. First of all, it's still BO2. Yes, I tied 6 weeks in a row. Yes, I did say 6 weeks. This was a 6-week season with all BO2. Don't ask how we came to that conclusion. I think we honestly just ended up trying to compromise between the BO3 and the BO1 people way too much, and just ended up in this like fifth circle of super hell. I don't even remember how we came to the 6-week conclusion. I couldn't tell you that. It's lost the time forever. Playoffs was no losers bracket this time, so you couldn't randomly get run back by the same guy you shit on, but it was still BO3, which, I mean, was definitely better than last season, but still not perfect. And then here are our finals matchups. These first 2 are our doubles matchups, and these bottom 2 are singles matchups, and our champions were Explorers Guild piloted by Josh, Crack God, and Sahaya. Notably, Josh wins Roaring Rapids and Splash Zone at the same time, so he is the first person to win doubles and singles, and he does it in the same season, like a beast. So, W Josh. Shout out him. And finally, for our last season here, we can get into Season 7, where we introduce our most recent division, the Deep End, kind of catered towards less experienced players, and I think it's a very welcome change to KC. It's honestly one of my favorite divisions to watch. I have a great time watching all the Deep End games. This is the first season we went BO1 for everything. We still had double Elam playoffs to kind of balance that out a little bit, and it was the end of the Monarch system, so no more Monarchs, Dukes, specific roles like that. It was all just based around how many points you had and how many points you had left, so more of a traditional draft board like you might expect. This season we also went from more of a mid to high tier Terra level to more of a lower power level again. There were a lot of notable KC newcomers, especially with the introduction of Deep End. So A12, 35B, ABCD, EFG, Panda, A, North, Quasar, Dropleto, Schizophrenia. I'm sorry, that's just how I say your name. I'll be honest. Hey, I'll be honest. The Schizophrenia. That's just what I be saying. Elite Game Break, Weston, and Lucas. And for one last final time, let's just see what was fucked up with free agencies this season. This was true for the last couple seasons, but it didn't really get pointed out until this specific season. Turns out that 8 total transactions for the season, even when it's just 1 mon each, was still way too much. What this ended up resulting in was that well-constructed rosters could just counterpick their opponents every week with no real downside, because the next week they could just do it again, or just pick up some generically good mon in that slot. Most notably, the person who did this was Vaughn, who is pretty much pointing this out every season and saying, hey, we have way too many transactions, and then not much happened as a result of that. So eventually he just said, fuck it, I'm going to abuse this myself in hopes that it finally gets changed, which he did. And that resulted in some some funny teams like Blissey Sun happening on his squad, which is just like a pretty blatant example of like, yeah, this shouldn't work in like any other week, but when you're against the Spectre, you can just click up a Blissey on Sun, which Vaughn did, and then it worked. He brought it and then countered Spectre, and it worked, and it was very good. And then he just dropped it the next week with no real consequence. So it was like, okay, yeah. Fair enough. You were right. This is stupid. After this, we finally limit the transactions to 4 for the entire season, and then limit it going up into playoffs. So that's where it lies in the current day. As far as our champions, there are 5 total divisions. So I'm just going to go through our champions real quick. Here are the matchups and the teams. Our Splash Zone champion was 812. Our Wraithful champion was 35B. Our Deep End champion was Quasar. Our Lazy River champion was North, actually, who joined halfway through the season like a beast. Still clutched it out anyways because he's the GOAT. And last but not least, our Roaring Rapids champion was Squonk. So that brings us to most of the present day and beyond. And I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you if you've made it this far. You know, this is not the shortest video, I'll give you that much. But I mean, just thank you if you've made it along this far in the journey. I really love what KC has turned into for the most part. I think it's easily one of the best draft communities I've ever been in. And it's very unique in what it does. So, I mean, if you're a part of this community, if you make it what it is, I just want to say thank you. And hopefully we'll have many more future seasons that we can look back, make some history videos on, and reminisce on all the stupid shit, you know? So, yeah, thank you very much.